Well, hello, you guys. This is Lily Resells, and today we have a special guest. His name is better known actually as Rise and Grind Picker, and here he is.
Hey everybody, what's up? Glad Lily, thanks for having me on. It's going to be an awesome show, and just in the car, going to spend some time with the family, and then tomorrow it's on the road for some RA. So for sure.
That is very excited. I actually do like RA, just that because of since I'm a beginner, it's kind of like okay, I have to be really picky about what I choose. So, how was it like for you starting off? What did you start off with? What was your favorite thing to do actually when you first started?
So my story's pretty crazy. I started selling on eBay in 2005, right? And you don't hear like a lot of stuff in my background, do you? Am I good?
No, not a
All
whole
right,
lot.
good. So I started off selling on eBay in 2005, and the crazy part about it is I didn't really have a whole lot of money. And then I stopped selling for a long time, for a couple of years. I would just randomly sell stuff in my house, whatever. And like 3 years ago, I had about $20 in my savings account, and I'm like, I got to make this work somehow. So I started hitting eBay really, really hard. I got into merchant fulfilling some books on Amazon, and then I failed at Amazon, and then I quit selling on Amazon for like 2 years. And I went back in August. It'll be 1 year. I started FBA, and this year I'll be a six-figure seller.
Wow, that's literally
Yeah,
that's in 3 years. Like that is crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy.
And when I was starting off, my cash flow was horrible. I didn't really have a lot of money to spend, so I literally took that $20 in my savings account that I had, and I flipped it over and over and over and over and over and over again until I built up a bankroll so I could do a lot of RA.
Awesome. And very kind of similar to my story in the sense that started off with very little money in our pockets and just I haven't tried Amazon yet, so I would say since you do currently sell on Amazon as well, right?
Yeah, just eBay and Amazon's my two main. I would say about 60 to 70% of my business is on Amazon now. And a year ago, it was 100% on eBay. And now it's about 60, 70% Amazon.
Awesome. And for people that are beginning Amazon, for example, because I know that a lot of people have different preferences as to what they want to do, since now we have eBay, we have Amazon, we have Mercari, we have for shoe resellers, we have Go and StockX, we have Poshmark. What would be your best tip for someone who wants to start either eBay or Amazon?
So here's my best tip. What you have on this online platform e-commerce kind of situation is you have a lot of platforms kind of out there. So the first step is to pick one platform and learn it very well. Learn it exceptionally well, learn all the rules, learn all the ins and outs. Take that platform, be an expert, and then you pick a second platform. And you do the same thing with that while continuing with the first platform you picked. You have to continue that up while you're learning a new one.
Perfect. Honestly, I definitely do agree with that piece of advice because I do eventually want to venture onto Amazon, but I don't want to make that leap until I fully master eBay and until I can create a very steady income on eBay before I venture out to something else. So I do totally understand where you're coming from, and I do totally agree with that piece of advice.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and definitely, Lily. Like and I think you're doing the right thing. Like you just got to learn eBay, and then after you do that, you can go into Amazon. But like when you first get into Amazon, I always tell everybody either start out with books or start out merchant fulfilling first. Don't go straight into FBA until you know all the rules and you know a lot of the ins and outs of Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And also for people, because I know that again, I'm not very familiar with Amazon. I do plan to start out with books, but I see that a lot of people are often restricted on many different brands or many different kinds of what would be the very first things that you actually can sell that you wouldn't be restricted on if you were to be starting on Amazon, for example?
Hey, it's books. Big
Books.
shocker, right? Well, and so that's why I say that. I laugh because everybody's like, how do I get, like, the number one question in a lot of my videos is how do I get unrestricted in things like Nike and Adidas? And the answer is you don't.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, I want to sell Nike, and I'm like, sorry, learn how to sell books.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to sell Nike or Adidas or any of the brands that are actually like very restricted and you'll probably never be able to sell on Amazon, I mean, there's eBay, there's StockX, there's
Yep.
Goat, there's Mercari, there's a bunch of different platforms that you can use besides Amazon to sell those kind of things. So it's not like a lost cause, you know what I mean?
Well, and a lot of people, like, for Nike, when they get into Amazon, Nike's the big thing everybody wants to sell, and they try to pay these ungating services, and what happens is they end up getting suspended for life because an ungating service gave them an invoice and it was falsified. Because Nike, there's only like one wholesale distributor that is actually good for Amazon, maybe. Most of them out there, they are not allowed to give you permission to sell anything online that has a Nike brand on it. So what you got to look at is, like I tell everybody, if you want ungated at Nike, like auto ungated, like not having to send an invoice and it just lets you in, build your account up and sell a ton of books.
That sounds like very, very good advice. And honestly, I mean, one of the things that one of my favorite videos from Gary Vee, I remember you stating in the previous live chat that you do listen to Gary Vee. But one of my very favorite things that he said in a Q&A session one time about this kid um, trying to get involved in like weed startups and stuff like that, and it's kind of like you have to adapt or you lose.
Yeah,
And if you can't sell that specific brand on Amazon, then maybe if you really want to sell it, then go to another platform. There's so many platforms that you can use that it's like for me when I started couponing and the restrictions got so bad that I couldn't even coupon to resell anymore. Well, you
right.
have to adapt. That's how I started on eBay. You have to adapt. If you cannot adapt to the changes that go on within the platforms that you want, or simply if that's a set in stone rule and there's no way you can overcome it, you need to
Right.
you need to kind of react to the way it actually is rather than complain about, oh, I can't sell Nike on Amazon.
Well, and that's where, like, a lot of Amazon sellers fail because they're restricted to everything. And they're like, well, I'm restricted to everything I scan. I'm like, have you tried books? And they're like, no, it's too much work. Books is a lot of work. Like, selling books on Amazon is a grind. Like, you got to go find them, and then you have to ship them out. And the boxes are like 46 to 48 pounds. They're heavy. Nothing's really fun about books, but it's a lot of money. Like, I just sold a book today for $69. I bought for $1 used. I sold it used, $69.
That's crazy.
You
And
know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, at the beginning, it's always hard. Anything that you want to start in life is always hard in the beginning. It's where you have to put in the most work because
Yeah.
you're building it from the ground up. So, I mean, honestly, if you're scared of the work, then maybe this business is not for you.
Well, and most new Amazon sellers, it would not pay them to go on the road and do RA because they're going to be restricted in like 98% of things. But
Mm-hmm.
like for me, I built my account up over time to where I'm unrestricted in a lot more stuff, and I can go on the road and pick up a, a really like big amount of things and a wide variety of things and not be restricted. And then I might come across a couple items that I am, but I've made so much money. It's either I just pick them up and I sell them on eBay, or I just don't pick them up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like for right now, since I'm pretty sure I've stumbled across a lot of things that maybe can be sold, that maybe might have made sense to buy to sell on Amazon, but not on eBay. And I passed on them because obviously I'm not selling on Amazon right now, and I probably would be restricted even if I wanted to, right?
Mm.
But you know, again, you just have to adapt. You have to adapt.
I'm,
There's really no way around it.
I'm gonna get on my other phone really quick, and I'm gonna look up your channel and see if I can pull the chat up, and see if there's anybody in it, any questions or anything like that. Give me a second. I'm gonna pull into this gas station really quick. Here we go. All right. Give me a second. Yeah, all you gotta do is you gotta mute the little button or whatever. All right. Oops. Give me a second. Yeah, all you gotta do is you gotta mute the little button or whatever. All right, I'm good now. But anyways, yeah, like this is what you have to just adapt, and you have to look at things as more of a mindset thing, because if you don't, you're just going to be trapped in constantly thinking like, well, I can't sell that. Well, I can't sell that. Well, there's no point in selling on Amazon. That's how I thought, and I didn't sell on Amazon for 2 years. I merch fulfilled for a year. I couldn't sell anything. Literally. Well, there's no point in selling on Amazon.
I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, you're good.
I'm trying to figure
you just on the video. There's a little like speaker, and you just hit it, and it mutes it.
Let's see. I'm trying to get the chat as well.
Oh, you're all good. But that's what you do is you learn to adapt in those kind of ways. I'm going to go ahead and share this out on my timeline real quick and see if anybody pops in. A lot of people may not have, they actually may not have, plans for today. So if they want to come join and kind of come into the chat, that'd be awesome. Be awesome. But yeah, so Lily, what's your favorite thing to sell on eBay?
Right now, I would probably say my favorite thing to sell on eBay would probably be, I would say handbags and shoes. Right now, my thing. When I first started out on eBay, I actually started selling because I used to live in a really small town. So, I started off with shoes, but I made a rookie mistake in the sense that I didn't know all about the active to sold ratio. So I do still have quite some shoes that I've bought in, and they're still unsold, unfortunately. So I kind of gave up on shoes for a little while, and I just recently, in the last couple of weeks, I started picking up shoes again, and I've noticed that ever since I started paying attention to that, my sales have improved, and I've sold a lot more shoes a lot more quickly than what I used to.
Right, absolutely, and shoes are great money. Like there's another item. There's one item right there that you just mentioned that people don't want to sell. CBK, how is it going? What is up? Help her get some people. Yep, I actually sent the link out on my timeline. And if you all, whoever's watching this, if you want to send it out as well, share it out to Facebook and tell your friends and stuff to come in and learn about reselling. But definitely the crazy part is shoes is another one of those things, Lily, that is super good money, but people don't want to do the work because you have to clean a lot of them, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm the kind of person where, it's not so much that I don't want to do the work. I just don't. Right. If I have to really, really clean them, and it's kind of like you got to choose. Mm-hmm. Is the profit worth it? Oftentimes, if I have to do some expensive cleaning, then I simply won't pick them up. Yep. Most of the time, they usually just need like a little polish, like especially if they're leather shoes, then just with a little bit of Wonder Balsam, and you're ready to go. Like, yes, it's really not that much.
I even have a shoe brush, like the like long brushes where after you polish them up, you just take the brush across them, and it kind of puts spreads it out pretty even to make it shine a little bit. Another thing to clean shoes is this is a pro tip right here. You pour a little bit of I go to Dollar General and I buy 90% rubbing alcohol. I put it in a bowl and I get a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and I dip it in there and I scrub the shoe with it and everything comes like right off. It's crazy. Yeah.
That is crazy. Another tip, speaking of alcohol, another tip that I have is because oftentimes I've noticed that Goodwill will write with Sharpie on handbag hardware, like the zipper and stuff like that. Alcohol. Rub alcohol on that. If you don't have any alcohol, use hairspray. For all the ladies out there,
That's
use
awesome.
hairspray and it'll come right off. That's what happened to me because I don't currently have alcohol with me.
Yep.
And I was like, this has Sharpie on the hardware. And then I was like,
Definitely.
wait, I have hairspray. Because I remembered about hairspray because hairspray has alcohol, but
I
remembered to use it because back in high school when it used to be like really popular to have your friends write all over your binders, and whenever I would want to erase and write new stuff, I would use hairspray perfume to remove it.
No, absolutely. Anybody, if there's 3 or 4 watching now, if you have anything, any questions, put them in the chat, and also we'll answer your questions about reselling. But I have a lot of like couponing and penny item people that follow me. And if you have any penny item questions, put them in the chat as well. So we are. I will answer penny item questions, and Lily is an avid couponer, so she can answer lots of couponing questions, I bet.
Yes, I sure can.
So I started doing penny item videos, and then I'm actually going to get into couponing videos here pretty soon. So definitely,
I'm excited about that one.
It's going to be fun stuff. But that's what you should do for your channel is Lily, couponing.
Yes, I actually do. I actually have uploaded quite a few couponing videos, and one of the best things that I still coupon to this day is actually meats like chicken and red meats and stuff like that. Like
that's awesome.
I still coupon for that. Like recently, I went to Target. I think it was for the Memorial Day sale. I went to Target. I think I got I think it was like 22 or so pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast, and I only paid like 70 cents a pound.
That is crazy. That's actually a pretty good price because what's the average that you pay for that? Probably what, like $1 something a pound?
Usually, well, when I see it in stores, usually like thighs and stuff like that is cheaper. But if you're looking for a boneless, skinless chicken breast, usually it's the cheapest it'll go is probably $1.75, or $2 a pound or so. So it's not that cheap.
Keith Price says there's a spider behind you, Keith. There's no spider. Don't fib. I'm just joking. So, anyways, so Lily, how long do you think it's going to take you to actually learn eBay? How long have you set? Like, have you set any goals for yourself about that?
For me, honestly, my goal as of right now, I'm trying really hard to quit my job as soon as possible. So right now my goal as it stands is once I'm able to maybe have about $10,000 in savings, I can actually set aside about half of that, which would be basically 3 months of expenses, just to kind of have like a little bit of a buffer, and reinvest the rest. Because honestly, my expenses are so low. Again, I moved to a different state, so my expenses are so low right now that I can literally. I do my best to keep my expenses low for that very reason.
Oh, and that's what you want to do. Like for me, I was working a corporate job, and I worked in corporate management for 10 years, and I was making really good money, but I also spent it like I made it. So I had debt out of this world. Crazy debt. A lot of credit card bills, stuff like that. And I started reselling, even when I had even when I had that, really good full-time corporate job, and
Mm-hmm.
I was able to pay off about 87% of my debt,
Oh
which is pretty
wow.
crazy. So, um, and then this year, I would say this year is the year I probably will end up going full time as a reseller, and because it's just gonna be this is gonna be a crazy year. It's gonna be a crazy year.
Congratulations on that, by the way. Just the
Thank you.
fact
Yeah.
that you can say I'm debt free, like that is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Good
Yeah, it's
job.
crazy, and that's the goal, though, right? Is because if you want to be a full time reseller, it doesn't put as much pressure on you to sell
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Because you have less bills. It doesn't put as much pressure on you to have to sell something or have to do this or have to do that. It's less pressure.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And, honestly, like for me, like I can totally understand how it wouldn't be as feasible for other families.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a lot of things to take into consideration. Like for example, I'm a single parent, but I only have one
Mm-hmm.
child. So obviously, I'm better. It's easier for me than as opposed to a family of four, or
Right.
as opposed to a single mother of two or three. All these little things that you have to take into consideration, and just get out of debt,
Mm-hmm.
keep your expenses low, and then create a plan as to, okay, how much money do I need every month to live?
Yep.
How much do I need to save up in order for me to be able to kind of, how much money do I need to make every month? These things that
Mm-hmm.
that can really set you up for success. And again, failing to plan is planning to fail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing is that if you have a ton of bills, and you want to be a full time reseller, sell on Amazon full time, like think about the long game. Play the long game, get a full time job, do it. I mean, here's the thing I was working a corporate job, working 50 hours a week and doing crazy hours and staying up all night shipping stuff and doing eBay listings and shipping stuff to Amazon. And then that's eventually how I am going to be able to break out of that cycle. You know what I mean? Because I did all that. I really hustled a lot when I worked full time and was making great money. And so by doing that, I just set myself up for success.
I completely agree. And again, the the very when you're first starting, I
Mm-hmm.
understand, that there's only so many hours in the day,
Mm-hmm.
all these things, but in the beginning you have to really hustle. There's really no other way
Yes.
around it. And at the end of the day, you have to love it in order for you to be able to even put in as many hours as this requires, especially when you're
Mm-hmm.
beginning. Like for example, I work 5 days a week at my full-time job, and every single day that I'm off, I put in at least 12 hours of sourcing that on my days off, and then I still, when I come home, I'm still taking pictures. I'm still listing. All these things that it sucks. You don't. It
Right.
sucks in the sense that you don't have a social life. But at the end of the day, are you willing to sacrifice a few years of having really any free time for the long game and for your future, or would you rather continue to the lifestyle that you currently have, and maybe you're not ever going to be able to get out of it because you're not
Right.
willing to sacrifice?
Right. Absolutely. And that's the thing is you have to make sacrifices. That's how you get ahead, and that's how you have to be able to, if you want to do this full time. That's how you get ahead in that part. Other than that, learning eBay, learning Amazon, or learning that one platform, getting really good at it, that's very, very apparent. But also learning stuff that sells, learning like what to pick up. That's the next key. Like every one of those, like it's not just one particular thing that makes you successful. It's 4 or 5 combined. You know what I mean?
And what would be, for example, what would be your best piece of advice for just someone that's in the trenches? Like, where, for example, that just, trying to get into a rhythm. Like, what was the best way that you got into a routine? Do you think being organized, or, are you not organized? What is your what how does your everyday function, is really what I'm asking.
I mean, I'm pretty organized, but I think that if you're going to do this at like a high level or you're going to do a lot of volume, you got to have a schedule. So I'm trying to balance eBay and Amazon and YouTube. So obviously, like YouTube's kind of like crazy for me right now. I'm doing like a video very sporadically, like every other day. I want to be doing daily content, but it's too hard to keep uploading. So a lot of it is trying to set days where I do eBay and Amazon. So if I do Amazon Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I know that I'm gonna have to do eBay Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and probably Sunday, or Amazon Sunday again. And so setting those timelines, like I have like like let's say I have one shipment, really one shipment to prepare, one more shipment to prepare before I leave tomorrow. So I'm gonna go spend time with my family, at a campground for a little bit, watch some fireworks, go home, prepare a shipment. I'm going to list 149 eBay items tonight. And on top of that, I'm going to print out and get my route ready for when I leave tomorrow evening. And I have a show to do at 11 a.m. in the morning with another YouTuber. We're collabing, so I have to get Zoom set up and get all that set up for that 11 a.m. call. So that's like kind of like what my day looks like. That's just one day.
That, honestly, I aspire to that level of organization. I'm not very organized when I do things, so yeah, I'm trying, and I'm always like, I have to be more organized. I have to be more organized, but I always fail. And but quite honestly, like
Mm.
that's amazing. That
And
is amazing.
I have a lister for eBay, so I have about 140 some listings I have to get in there and approve, get those listed. But I use Google Calendars. I write on my phone and I set events on my calendar of what I'm supposed to be doing at those times. So I know I have an 11 a.m. call tomorrow with another YouTuber that we're going to record a video. And before I leave for my trip, we're going to do that in the morning. So I know I have to do that. So it's going to shoot me a reminder 30 minutes before I have to be on that call. And it's gonna remind me, hey, you got to be on this call. You need to get ready.
That, yeah, and honestly, that's just. I
But
wish I was as organized as you.
I have to be because the crazy part is you know when you're doing crazy amounts of volume on Amazon and you're trying to really I'm trying to really scale eBay up really really a lot and very quickly. You have to be you have to have that level of organization to where what you have to do, because if you sit there and you're like, what do I do now, what do I have to do, you're going to sit there for 2 hours and then you're not going to get anything done. And time is money. Time is money, and time is something you can't get back. So the more organized you are, the more you're going to have time to spend with your family on the back end. You know what I mean? Because if I sit there, for me, when people ask me, they're like, oh, did you see this YouTube video that, so and so put out? And I'm like, no, I don't watch YouTube. And they're like, what? I'm like, I do sometimes, when I'm in the car, I'll turn YouTube on, listen to it. I listen to audiobooks, but I don't watch a lot of YouTube because I'm so busy all the time. I make YouTube videos, but I don't watch a lot of YouTube because I just don't have the time. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. Like, for example, oftentimes a lot of people ask me, because I have two TVs, but
Mm-hmm.
they're basically one for my room and one for my living room. But literally, they're just there for decoration.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people is like, "Have you watched this movie? Do you watch this show?" I'm like, "I don't watch TV." And I'm like,
Right.
"Why do you don't watch TV?" I'm like, "Because I'm always busy. I don't have time
Right.
to watch TV. And if I turn on the TV, it's usually just to kind of have that little noise in the background, and I'll look over for like 2 minutes, and then I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Like,
Yep.
I'm busy."
Yep, absolutely. And that's kind of where I'm at. I just don't do a lot. And so when I go on my trip tomorrow, like I'm probably gonna have to pack my laptop. I'm gonna have to pack my printer, everything, because if I find enough stuff Saturday night, I'm probably gonna end up shipping it from my hotel room, but I just don't know yet.
Mhm.
Um, because I'm hitting a crazy amount of stores in just 2 days, and I'm coming back home Sunday, so it's gonna be a rush. Like I'm probably gonna end up hitting over 100 stores in those 2 days.
Excited about that?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be crazy. But for the next 8 weekends or 8 to 10 weekends. So like I'm going to eBay Open. So this is how crazy my schedule is. I already know it's already set. I'm going to eBay Open. I'm leaving the 22nd and I'm flying out of Illinois to Vegas. So I'll be there the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th. Coming back home on the 26th. I'm RAing every weekend from now till right now till the 22nd until I leave. I'm RAing every weekend. When I get back on the 26th, I go to Alabama for a week. And so me and my wife are leaving Illinois. We're driving to Alabama for a week trip. I'm RAing the entire time for a whole week for like probably 50% of the trip. And then I'm writing the whole trip off as a business expense, right? Then I'm coming back and I leave at the end of August to go to a meetup in Tennessee. So I'm driving to Nashville to a meetup at the end of August. So it's just crazy. You know what I mean? And you got to like really stay on top of that schedule.
And is this your first eBay Open, or have you been to previous ones?
Oh yeah, it's my first one. It'll be my first one, and I don't, I kind of know what to expect, but um, it's gonna be pretty crazy. Like just the networking aspect, because really the only reason I'm going is like to network with people. I'm gonna shoot a bunch of video, but I want to network with some other YouTubers and stuff, and it's a good opportunity to do that and meet people like, me and Wade. Wade's Ventures are friends, and he's actually a speaker this year at eBay Open, and me and him are friends, so we're gonna hang out, and we're gonna hang out with Scott and and all everybody, and we're just gonna get some drinks, have fun, probably do a little gambling, go do some fun events, so it's just gonna be like more for me a lot of networking, but newer eBay sellers, it might have a lot of value because they have a lot of classes you can attend and learn a lot about eBay.
That's awesome. And how, for example, what would be your favorite? I would say your
Mm-hmm.
favorite current resellers that you know of currently.
So, like my favorite, I'm friends with Wade, and then Jason Deason, Thrift Trader, and Scott the Bearded Picker. But I really don't watch reselling content, which is pretty crazy. People are like, "You make it, but you don't watch it." I'm like, "No, I don't, because I just don't have time." But
Mhm.
I would say if I had to pick my favorite YouTuber of all time. Okay, this is gonna be crazy, but he comes out with like one video every 5 months, and he is probably the most entertaining person I've ever seen. And his name is eBay Kirk, and he is hilarious. But he doesn't make a lot of content, so he's probably like my favorite.
That's actually pretty awesome though, because there's also this other YouTuber. He's not a reseller, but he's a more fitness YouTuber, and the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. He makes videos very like every couple months or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
even makes a joke out of that. And it's just it's funny because whenever he uploads, I'm like, oh, you uploaded a video, you're all excited.
Yes,
I totally understand where you're coming from.
absolutely, absolutely. And so for the most part, it's just like my schedule's crazy. Like now, when I'm driving in the car, I will listen to some YouTube. Like I'll put on some reselling content or Gary Vee or Grant Cardone or whatever I want to listen to, and I'll listen to it and while I'm driving. And that's when I get like a lot of my YouTube time. Like when I leave Friday, I don't know where I'm going to stop to get a hotel at. I'm just going to stop when I stop. There's
Mhm.
no set schedule, but I know where I'm going. So when I get to that first location, I'm going to try to hit several stores Friday, and then whenever I have to get a hotel, I'm just going to find a town and get a hotel, and I'll probably be listening to reselling content while I'm driving to my first location because it's a couple hours away, just to the first location.
And when you, speaking of content, so currently, like for example, when I'm on my day job and
Mm-hmm.
we're on downtime, I do watch a lot of reselling content only because there's a lot of brands since I'm barely beginning.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of brands I don't know of, and simply just kind of keeping up with any changes, keeping up with
Mm-hmm.
any tips and tricks. Um, when you first started, what was the best way that what helped you learn the most?
Oh, YouTube, 100%. When I first started reselling, I about 5 years ago, maybe, or 4 years ago, I started watching YouTube resellers because I knew that I didn't know there was a community, but I found it. And then a year later, I started my own channel. But all I did was I did eBay listings and I watched reselling content to learn more stuff, to learn how to do things, whatever. And then I thought I'm gonna start my own channel, and I did. And even when I was smaller in YouTube, I watched a lot of content. But now that my YouTube channel is growing, my business is growing, it's just the time factor of like, you just don't have time. But there are, YouTube is a huge way to learn how to do this. You can learn brands, just like you told me. You can learn brands. You can learn what to pick up at yard sales or garage sales for money. You can learn some bolos that you can find at garage sales, all sorts of different stuff.
Awesome. And um, another question.
Yeah.
When you what is your favorite either item or brand to sell of all time, and what is your current
So, brand like as in clothing?
clothing, shoes, anything, electronic,
Awesome.
anything?
So, that's weird. So, man, there's a lot of brands I like to sell. A lot. I love to sell vintage clothing on eBay, but let's see here. Probably my favorite thing to sell and list is electronics, used electronics, stuff like that. So I picked up a used printer at a yard sale for 50 cents, and it sells on Amazon FBA used for $450. So I'm going to turn 50 cents into about $320 in profit, which is crazy. But I love electronics, use electronics, stuff like that. Um, Probably my favorite brand to sell is in clothing is let's see here. I'd say probably Patagonia maybe.
Okay. It's quite interesting because I do often hear a lot of people. I've heard a lot of good things about Patagonia, and
Mm-hmm.
I've actually had listed a couple items before, but for whatever reason, I don't have luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a whole lot of luck with that brand.
That brand's one of those brands where when you find like the higher end stuff for
Hmm.
Patagonia, like it just takes a while to sell. Like it's gonna sit there for a little while and eventually it'll sell, but it'll just take some time. A lot of clothing on eBay, it's that same way. You're listing it, but it may take a couple months actually for it to sell. You know what I mean? So I think when you're in the clothing game, um, you just want to like be able to pick good brands that have a good chance of selling and really unique clothing pieces, like very unique designs, unique whatever. You just can't go pick up a polo Ralph Lauren and it's just blue and say I'm gonna sell it for $50. It don't work like that. But if you picked up a vintage polo Ralph Lauren collar block polo, you could sell it for $50 to $100.
A lot of sense. Like for whenever I'm sourcing clothes, I would say my biggest tip would kind of um, search for when you search the closest thing to it. So for example, if it's
Yes,
a Ralph Lauren polo, say Ralph Lauren Pima cotton polo, and then search under the colors. If
yes,
it's blue, search blue. How many are active, how many have sold, and kind of base it more off of that to see if there's even demand for that specific item. And also you can
absolutely.
find a more exact comp that will help you. Okay, I can price it at this price point. Is it worth it to buy it?
Right. And I think you got to look at those things, especially on eBay. Like if you're going to a garage sale and you're picking something up for 25 cents, it doesn't really matter. Like my rule of thumb is if it sells for like $20 and up, I'm good. Depending on what I pay for it. But if I can't sell it for at least $20, I'm probably not even going to pick it up, because when I first started out on eBay, I would be like, oh, 25 cents, I can sell it for $10. I'm picking it up and I'm going to make $3. And now I'm just like, I want to make a little bit more because my time is becoming worth more. And when you first start out, you find yourself getting those lower end items and selling them. There's nothing wrong with that. But your time becomes, at some point in time, your time becomes worth more money. And then you want to start sourcing items that are worth more.
Makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I've been sourcing here.
Mm-hmm.
When you mentioned vintage clothing, I haven't really found a whole lot of vintage clothing here where I currently live. I
Mm-hmm.
do find a lot of higher end items from time to time. Usually, my best of luck with higher end items has been electronics and handbags. So I'm really excited to continue with that. Um, but for example, when it comes to you did mention
Mm-hmm.
you really like Patagonia, and what is from that specific brand? What is usually your favorite thing to sell of that brand?
See, that's the problem is I don't find a lot of it, and like especially in Illinois, so that's why it's my favorite brand.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, like if you can pick up like maybe some Patagonia boots or like a sweatshirt, um, if they're in good condition, those can go for a decent amount of money. Clothing as well, though, like my favorite ultimate thing my all-time favorite thing to sell in clothing, hands down, is vintage concert t-shirts.
Hmm.
Those are my favorite thing to sell, and I have made a ton of money off of them. It's just you got to learn which ones are fake, which ones are real. And people will pay some really good money for 1980s vintage Def Leppard T-shirt, or a 1970s. I've sold a T-shirt, like I've sold T-shirts for hundreds of dollars because they were vintage rock and roll band T-shirts.
Hmm. And I honestly, I have not had any luck whatsoever finding expensive t-shirts. So I'm kind of like looking forward to the day where I find one.
Right.
But we'll remain
You
curious
will
until that
eventually.
day happens.
I
Um,
found, get this, I found a vintage Mariah Carey concert T-shirt from her first concert she ever did, and I sold that thing for like $140,
wow,
and I paid $3 for it at Goodwill. It
wow.
sold for like $140.
Speaking of Mariah Carey, I actually did find one of her T-shirts. It no, it wasn't Mariah Carey. It was Celine Dion. And it was a more recent concert T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I paid 50 cents for it, and it sold for almost $40. So
Yep.
that was a pretty good flip.
Celine Dion is like, I mean, people like her merch because there's not a lot of it out there. Like, she has a decent amount, but if you can find like even a vintage Celine Dion shirt,
Mhm.
like you're probably looking at anywhere from like $100 to $200. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like minimum, depending on what year it's from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this one was a recent one. I think it was from her Vegas residency, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a fairly new piece of merch.
Right.
But yeah, well, to kind of wrap this whole thing
Mm-hmm.
up, um, I just have one question or two questions actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one, what would be your top two, three tips? And question number two would be what has been your most exciting thing to flip? Like for example, your most like WTF moment of
All right, this sounds fun. So, let's see. Tip number one is, so success in this business doesn't come overnight. You literally have to grind. You have to fail a lot, and if you're not failing a lot, then um, either you're doing something perfectly or you're not doing something right. Because I failed a ton to get where I'm at, and eBay is, not perfect. Amazon's not perfect, so you're gonna buy some bad stuff. You're gonna buy some stuff that's not going to sell. You just have to work through it and learn more. The more you educate yourself, the better you're going to be off. And my second tip would be, honestly, go into Goodwill or go to a garage sale and pick up something that you normally wouldn't even look at and look it up on eBay. And I think eventually, after like the 15th or 100th or 50th or 20th or 10th time you do it, you're going to find something that's going to sell for good money. And so just do that. Go to a garage sale and walk around it and find something you normally wouldn't even look at, that you're not even interested in, and look it up, because that's how you learn about more items. When I was learning about items to sell, I would go into the Goodwill or to a thrift store, and I would go to the women's clothing and I would just look up brands. And that taught me women's clothing. So, and then probably my biggest WTF moment in reselling would probably be when I first started selling on FBA. I was pretty new and I was selling books, right? And so I would buy a ton of used books. And the first book that the first shipment I sent in, I sold like 20% of the books in like 2 hours. So I was pretty like, what the heck's going on here? And my first month, I sold $3,000 in used books. My first month on FBA.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, it almost feels like that. It's crazy. Just like sometimes, like when it's not so much that you don't have high expectations of it. It's just that you
Right.
don't expect it to go that well. You're like, what?
And I worked really hard, and I was just like, it was like, what the heck just happened? And then I just started grinding on FBA and sending a ton of stuff in, learning more about it, learning how to use tools that's related to it, and and that's how I was successful on it.
It's very just one more thing to kind of wrap this
Yeah.
whole thing up. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, you're
Um,
fine.
uh, like when there's this meme that I saw not too long ago that said, oh, when you go a few days without having a sale, and you're like, oh, maybe this isn't for me, and then you make a sale, and you're like, oh, I actually do need to do this. It kind of feels like that, like when you
Yes.
have like a very like positive period, and then your sales kind of slow down, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? And then your sales pick up back up, and then you're like, oh, I need to hustle.
Yes, absolutely, and that's exactly how it is. Yeah, I mean, you're thinking like, man, I'm never gonna make it, and then you make a sale, or I'm never gonna be successful at this, and you sell, $700 a day on eBay, on Amazon. It's possible.
Alrighty. Well, you gave some very good advice,
Yeah,
and hopefully, not a lot of people are on the live chat, unfortunately. But I'm pretty sure that eventually, they're probably celebrating with their family, so it's all good.
oh yeah, sure, absolutely, and catch it on the
And
replay.
hopefully we can answer some more questions in the comments later on. And yeah, it was very nice speaking to you once again. It was a
Absolutely.
pleasure having you on my channel. I'm very, very grateful for you wanting and taking the time out to be on my channel. And we'll see each other next time.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on, Lily.
Thank you.